Hey everyone, you're listening to Handy at the Shandy. I'm Boring Jack. I'm joined by Adam the Fraud and Table Games James. On this episode, we're going to talk about some of James's recent and upcoming regional casino jaunts, if that's allowed. We're going to hear some listener feedback, and we're going to talk about James's upcoming 40th birthday trip to Vegas, and some of the feedback we've received on that and what he's ultimately decided to do with that.
That was an articulate, that was like NPR, that intro. Yeah. That was good. One of our better ones, I think.
Thank you.
It's definitely better than when I get excited to lead the show.
Or when I just forget that I'm leading and I just mess it up. But yeah, that was good. All right, you've set the bar.
So James wanted to lead the show talking about a recent trip to MGM Springfield and an upcoming trip to Atlantic City, which I think the audience is pretty well aware at this point are both contraband topics on this podcast. And so I think I just kind of want to start with a discussion of like, why do I have the reputation of being a hardline asshole that won't let James talk about his favorite places to gamble?
Well, we got some feedback on Twitter that was like, wait a minute, Adam can talk about Disney, but every time James mentions Atlantic City, it gets bleeped out by Jack. What the hell? And I was like, yeah, what the hell? Because I just wanted to respond like that.
Well, right. And I think the main reason that I am such a stickler about this on this nascent show that we have here is that I think nothing, well, to me personally, I don't think any gambling destination rivals Las Vegas really in any respect. And so as a result, like if we're going to make content that I would want to listen to, then it's going to be Vegas focused and specifically avoid other destinations. But even if that weren't the case, I don't think any other gambling destination in the US rivals Vegas in terms of its national appeal. Like if we were going to do a tier list of how much national appeal does like a gambling destination have, Vegas would be alone in the S tier. There would be nothing in the A tier. And then maybe down in the B tier, you start adding like Atlantic City or Biloxi or things.
You're going to get Blackhawk fans on your ass right now.
Sure, that could be in there as well. But the point is that like nowhere is even close to a major airport that has like a few casinos around, right? Like all these places like Atlantic City or Biloxi or Blackhawk are just a pain in the ass to get to. And so as a result, like they may as well not exist to a large portion of our audience and to me specifically. And so as a result, I'm like very tepid on the idea of being like, well, we'll talk about the lunch special at the steakhouse at the Ocean Resort because, man, what a deal that burger is. It's just like, get the fuck out of here with that.
Oh, so, man, I do plan on going to the steakhouse at Ocean Casino this weekend. So I guess I won't give that report next time.
Exactly. But with that in mind, James, what would you like to share with us today?
I mean, I think I'm not sitting here saying that when one of us, which would be either Adam or myself, because we know you don't do any outside gaming besides going to Vegas 20 times a year or whatever you're up to now. I'm not saying we come back and we give a trip report, but I think it'd be really cool to be like, hey, remember how a couple weeks ago when I said my spreadsheet of wins and losses was not great? And it's because I haven't hit a royal yet. And when I hit a royal, I'll win $4,000 and it'll kind of come back up. Well, I hit the royal.
In MGM Springfield?
Yeah, I hit the royal.
Yeah.
But the problem was it was playing quarter Ultimate X and I had no bonus. I had no multipliers. So it was just quote unquote, just 1,000 when I hit it. It felt really weird. So what happened was I was playing Ultimate X and I got dealt 4 to the royal and, I drew and I didn't get it. And like 3 hands later, I got dealt 4 to the royal again. And I had a 3X on the top row, nothing on the middle, nothing on the first row. And I hit it on the first row for $1,000, 4,000 quarters. And I was like excited, but also very dejected because I was going back and forth between playing 3-line dollars, at 15 a pull and the Ultimate X at 750 a pull. And, of course it's going to happen that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss.
And that's
Yeah.
really what I wanted to talk about when it came
T's
to
and P's.
MGM. But I was afraid. I was really afraid. I was like, Jack might kick me off the podcast.
I'm going to grant an exception for this one because you were playing Quarter Ultimate X, and that is the way to get back into my good graces. But
I played so much video poker there. I got so many tier credits. My hands, like I was cramping. My wrists were cramping for playing so much. I played craps for less than an hour and lost the same amount of money that I lost playing 3 straight days of video poker. And it made me think, like, why do I, like, I mean, if I'm going to be able to, I'm probably going to lose the same amount. I guess I should just play the video poker and get all the tier credits.
Yeah, I think that's a very easy thing to think when you have a bad session at something is to be like, well, odds be damned, right? Like,
Odds be
if
damned.
the odds must not matter if I'm just going to get completely wrecked at this low house edge game.
As MGM Springfield, they don't have like a tier accelerator bonus, do they?
No.
Like Vegas does? No, that's a bummer.
But they don't. This is what I do love, and I'm gonna say, I don't know if this is all gonna get cut or not, but I'm gonna say something specific about MGM Springfield.
Okay, let it fly.
They don't charge the vig up front on the 4 and 10.
That's not specific.
Well, East Coast, like most places in the East Coast, will charge the vig up front.
Well, see, this is exactly why you can't say shit like this. Nowhere in Vegas charges the vig up front on the 4 and 10. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so that's why you don't want to play the 4 and 10 here. Anyways, so it was a good time. I was there to give a talk at where I went to undergrad at Western New England College, and I always stay at the casino. And I'm so thankful that casino was built well after when I was an undergrad there, because if there was a poker room close by and $10 blackjack and craps close by, there's no way I would have graduated undergrad. So absolutely no way.
Talk to me a bit more about your predilection for switching between video poker games and denominations. Like, how do you cope with that? It seems like one way is by complaining about it on a podcast, but like other than that.
It's usually what I just, sometimes it's just, I'm just going by vibes. I'm just feeling bored with something. I'm not the type of person who can just sit there and play the same exact game for so long, right? Like I know like you can sit and play Quarter Ultimate X for like 6 hours straight. I probably would at least every couple hours switch it up to something different. And I really like playing bonus poker, and they did not have any bonus poker Ultimate X. So when I went to Ultimate X, I had to go to double bonus, which means I increased my variance by a decent amount. And I didn't really necessarily want to do that all the time. So, yeah.
I'm a vibe guy too. It's complete vibe check. Math be damned. It's what is it? Shockwave I'm feeling? Is it quick quads? Dollar
2 games
quick
you
quads,
have never played.
Nickel. I saw it. I did see it in the little corner at Cosmo. I did check it out. I confirmed that James was telling the truth, that those games exist and they exist at Cosmo. But no, I did not play them.
No.
So while we're still in a safe space for our East Coast assholes, do you want to tell us about your upcoming Atlantic City trip then? Do you have anything for us on that?
All I'm going to say, I'm heading out there with a listener of the pod, one of my good friends, Steve. He's been listening to the pod, says great things about it. Shout out to Steve. We're just going out there for a couple of nights, and I'm going to go and meet up with the Due for a Win guys. So if anyone out there is like, man, I've been listening to Handy at the Shandy, but I really wish there was more Atlantic City stuff. But Jack doesn't let that happen. You can always go and what are we plugging? The Due for a Win podcast. They do a great job reporting on Atlantic City stuff. So just a couple day trip to head out and then come back to get back to work so I can make some money for our Vegas trip in November.
What are we plugging?
What are we plugging?
Well, one thing we're plugging is the fact that you can email the show at handyattheshandy@gmail.com. And we received some good listener feedback in the last couple weeks. And I'm going to throw a special shout out there to both Ryan and John, who emailed me syringe-related content. Ryan was coming in asking about kind of the recipe for what we're putting in these syringes.
Not we.
Serve yourself cocktails on the plane.
It's not a we thing. This
Royal
is an individual. Yeah. By the way, I was at a costume shop for my kids, and I saw fake syringes with it's supposed to be blood, but it was, it was almost like pinkish. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm just getting traumatized now whenever I leave the house with syringe related content. But please keep going.
Well, and then John emailed in and gave a recommendation for like a travel cocktail kit that is not syringe based for some reason, but otherwise is kind of meant for you to be able to prepare cocktails on the plane. I'll leave a note, leave a link to that in the show notes. And one thing that's been really cool about like all the listener feedback we're getting, I guess it's like kind of two competing points, but like one is that John Lowry, who sent in that email, is kind of like in my head podcast listener royalty, and that I've been hearing him write in or call in to various shows for like as long as I've been listening to podcasts. And so seeing like that name pop up in our inbox is super cool. But then the other thing is seeing these names of people I have literally never heard of pop up in our inbox is like also super cool, that there's people out there that's just like, well, how did this guy find the show? Well, welcome aboard to Ryan, and I hope these syringes do you well. On the topic of heavier handed theming, we talked about Excalibur last week and about, what sorts of things they could do to the interior of the castle to make it feel a bit more like the exterior that they've got going on. And Austin wrote in with a few comments on that. He said, "Hey, handy crew, I wanted to throw in my 2 cents on the topic of theming in Vegas." And he says, "I work in a theme park industry, so I'm at least partially credible." Adam is 100% right that it's the details of the theming.
Say that again.
Can you repeat that?
I've got a slight gripe with Austin on this one. Adam is 100% right that it's the details of theming that actually make the difference, not how guests interact with it. And that was like exactly the distinction I drew, which was like, you want theming that doesn't affect the way you interact with the property.
We have a
but anyways, thanks,
here.
Austin. He goes on to point out that necessities of the property like elevators, cashier, ATM machines, etc., shouldn't have theming that impacts their use, but they still do need touches so that they don't actively distract from the theming. In fact, the only things that cannot be themed are the security personnel and the fire alarms, which makes sense now that you think about it. And then he has some good ideas for what Excalibur could be doing. He says they actually have a great opportunity to use satirical theming. Like when you get a hand pay, they could make you wear a cheap plastic crown. They do have Dick's Last Resort there, so it does kind of seem fitting. He says the Thunder from Down Under guys that are hanging out like for the photo ops, they should be wearing knights helmets and make puns about their big swords.
I like it.
He says there could be a town crier coming through, that an insult comic that can walk through every so often making fun of people. And then this last one I really like, have fake stained glass of like people sitting at slot machines or standing at the roulette table. So kind of like anachronistic stained glass art. Cheers, Austin. So I thought that was some super fun ideas. I think anything would be better than what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a facade, right? And you lose it immediately when like you walk inside almost, where like, yeah, they have some stained glass and stuff, but like once you hit the casino floor, like the whole magic of whatever theming they're trying to do is completely gone. Like back in the day, like at Luxor, even like the cocktail waitresses would be wearing, they're not costumes, right? But like if you think of them as characters, whatever, like they would have outfits that matched the theme. And now it's just like standard cocktail waitress attire, whatever that really is. But I think the interesting thing from when we talked last time and now is like we actually, I think, missed the property that has the most potential and has fallen off so much, and that's Treasure Island, where they were doing everything right when it came to theming. They had the free show. You walked inside. It was very kind of like kinetic, like things were moving, right? Kind of, we talk about that with like Wynn, where like, you've got the umbrellas and stuff that are moving, and you lose that in the rest of these, where it just the place doesn't feel alive at all with any of the theming aspects of it. And I think my biggest gripe is like, they're being lazy with like the spaces they have. Like they're just selling out or leasing space in their casinos to places that have no kind of connection with what the place really is. Like Excalibur doesn't need a Buca de Beppo. Like who gives a shit, right? Like how much money are you making from Buca de Beppo? Maybe it's a lot, right? But like the fact that you're not willing to like take a risk, have your own IP, do something unique in some of these places and just lease it out to just Sparrow, Buca de Beppo, name your crappy Italian places. To me, that's like the thing that gets lost in some of these places. Or like Treasure Island. What do they have? Like
they have probably, I feel like, the highest number of like chain restaurants
Right.
of any property that you walk through.
Or like Gillies or whatever. Like, and it's like, oh, this is a cowboy bar in a pirate place. Like, what are we doing here right now? Like, just pick your theme. So yeah, I'm glad Austin wrote in and he said that I'm 100% right. Those are I appreciate that, but I could talk about this literally all day.
So he brings up Excalibur having great opportunity for satirical theming. Can we think of any other properties that might have a great opportunity for some satirical theming? Like, what would that look like at other properties?
My first thought is like how, and this is something they did. Like, I don't think I have the creativity in me, at least not on short notice, to come up with like some good ideas here. But one thing that I hear used to happen is that like the PA system in the restrooms at Paris would be like giving French lessons, like saying words and phrases and then saying them in the other language, etc. And I feel like stuff like that is like kitschy and dumb and is like exactly what you're talking about.
And I think the higher the tier resort, like the more you have to kind of pull back the satirical. You have to be more tame with it. Like I think Venetian Palazzo does a pretty good job of it right now. You lose it when you go in the rooms. Like that's not Italian whatsoever. That's not Venice. That's just a really nice room, and that's completely fine. And I think their customer base is okay with that. But when you have like a lower end property, and Treasure Island's not lower end, but like Excalibur, Luxor, Treasure Island, like do something, right? Like even like Treasure Island used to have like the nautical like netting and stuff, and like it was
Well,
just
that's one thing I
everywhere.
really do like about Treasure Island currently is that the actual Las Vegas Strip sidewalk maintained by the county that's out in front of the building is all boardwalk.
Right.
And so I like that is a really cool touch on it. And same with like kind of the netting you're talking about, the nautical ropes tied between the bollards and stuff like that. So they do have some good exterior theming, but again, it's the same problem where once you get inside, there's nothing.
They should have pirates in the casino. You're
Cocktail
gambling.
waitresses.
But you're gambling, right? You're sitting there, and all of a sudden, someone just comes, swipes your chips.
Right?
What? And they went with them, right? And it's like, sorry, you weren't protecting your booty, right?
Yeah,
and,
see,
that would be great.
I mean, these ideas, I'm not going to shit on Austin's great ideas here, but I do think the ones that involve it being more character-y or participant-y are things that would not be welcome to me. Like, I want it to be all cosmetic, fit and finish things. I don't really want there to be like a guy whose job it is to make me feel more immersed. Just make me feel more immersed with the way you decorate.
But I think we're talking about satirical theming of things that would be ridiculous, right?
Absolutely.
Or am I not understanding the assignment?
No, that's correctly what we're talking about. I'm just saying I think I was waiting for your ideas before I would jump in and say that they're all actually bad. If I just started with that, then it would sound like I was calling Austin out. And now I'm just calling out the whole idea in general.
Oh, gotcha.
I do like the fact that like around the time that like Pirates of the Caribbean became a major franchise, and of course Treasure Island doesn't own Disney IP, but like the idea of pirates and pirate lore were taking hold. They were like, we need to tone this down a little bit in our hotel. And like, what do you do? This is like the perfect opportunity to like lean in to this kind of idea, and you're just like, no. I know this is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, but we're gonna tone it down at this point.
You could do something like give $5 in free play for people that come in with a beard. Like that'd be great.
Or a pirate hat.
Or a pirate hat.
We've just got like the beard guy and the hat guy now just coming up with self-serving ideas.
It's just me getting free play every day.
I'm all for that.
All right, we had one more piece of listener feedback. Adam, it sounds like this came through you. Do you want to share this with us?
Yeah, it's from listener Zach. He said, enjoying the show so far. Again, this is the perfect way to get me to read your DM, because if that's the first thing I see, I'm reading the next few lines. He said, I got a question for you three when it comes to carnival-style video poker, like Ultimate X, Super Times Pay. I'm assuming Shockwave and Quick Quads we could throw in there as well. He said, what's your guys' rule of thumb for bankroll for a session when it comes to those games? I normally buy in for $100, but when I'm playing just normal 1 or 3-line video poker, I want to get into Ultimate X, but I feel like doing the same $100 buy-in doesn't give me a chance to weather the storm while I wait to catch a multiplier, which James, suffered that exact fate, as we heard. But he was on the East Coast, so who gives a crap about that?
That's right.
Jack, and we had kind of talked about it, I think, maybe after my trip report, where I would tend to start with like 500 if I didn't know how long I was going to be sitting down. Jack, I think it seems like from your perspective, you just always start with 1,000 when it comes to those games, at least at the quarter level.
Yeah, but I think the way I approach session bankrolls is informed by the fact that like life is just one big gambling session.
Sure.
Like you can't change the results of gambling by changing when you start or end a session. And so like some people I know would prefer to buy in for 100, and if they lose that, put in another 100 and do that, rinse and repeat.
Mhm.
Some people would prefer to buy in for 100, and if they lose that, go do something else. The something
Yeah.
else might be walking to the next bar and putting in 100, or the something else might be going and getting lunch and gambling later because you didn't want to lose more than 100 in the morning, right? Like the amount that you're willing to buy in with is your bankroll, right? It doesn't really matter how much you actually buy in with. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at there. So the reason I buy in for 1,000 is because for some of these long sessions, I'm willing to go 1, 2, God forbid, $3,000 deep in the machine if this is where I want to be and where I want to drink and where I want to play. And so there's no reason to start with a lower amount.
You know, I think it's important to think about the variance in these other carnival style video games, right? Like that's a huge difference between Ultimate X and Super Times Pay, right? Ultimate X, you're paying twice as much as what you'd be expecting on just your regular, 1 or 3 line.
Yeah.
Whereas Super Times Pay, you're only paying one extra credit, unless it's double Super Times Pay. I forget what the name of that one is. You would know better, Jack,
Sure,
where you're
yeah.
paying 2, whatever. So I do think you need, at least the way I look at it is I look at it of having about twice as much as what I'm going to put into a machine if I'm playing Ultimate X 3 line than what I'm going to do if I'm just playing the same quarter 3 line. And I actually have the same philosophy as you, Jack, with like, I'm just going to put my money in. But I started thinking about this when I was playing recently that, maybe I want to start setting some like loss limits of being like, whatever my high point is, I'm not going to go below, let's say I'm not going to lose $500 or whatever, $1,000, whatever, off of my high limit that I am at this point without at least taking some sort of break. And what does that some sort of break mean? It might mean going away from 3 line dollars and going down to single line dollars just for a little while, just to make it so that way I'm not hitting one of those bad runs, which we've all been on before, where it's like, wow, like a lot of the money that I was hoping to spend this weekend is now gone just in this like 2-hour session of Ultimate X.
Right. I tend to not really believe in the idea of like, well, I'll just go to like a different machine or a different table and that'll break things up or change things up, because it doesn't. But one thing that it really does do is it gets you away from the machine. And all these electronic gaming devices are designed to keep you at the machine and keep you pressing the button and spending your money, right? And so if you can break that through rules of your own that you're kind of artificially injecting, which then will make you play less over the course of the trip or make you play less over the course of like a trip on which you're losing, I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and to address Zach directly, I think if you're used to playing $100 for your quarter single line, or even $100 3 line quarters, which that can get a little pricey. I think if you're moving up to the same Ultimate X at quarters, you're going to need a lot more. Like 100 can go so fast.
Right. You said 2x, but really the variance associated.
Right.
You are paying, not only are you paying double to play Ultimate X, but the variance is more than double by a pretty large margin, I'd imagine.
I would say if you're going up to 2 quarters, I think 500 would be a close comparison to $100 if you were playing single line quarters. I think 500 for a 3 line Ultimate X would be a good comparison. But of course, what you could do is you could play Ultimate X at nickels or at dimes and get back down to that. And I was thinking about like when, what else could I play here that maybe I don't want to play this? And I was looking at the 10-cent 5 line Ultimate X, thinking that, okay, well, if I get a Royal at 10 cents, right, it's going to be 400. I could get a 10X on it and still get that 4,000.
Not out of the question, certainly.
No, it's happened.
Not
I'm sure.
out of the question. And think of how much more often you'd get those royals if you're playing 5 hands instead of 3.
That's just smart gambling.
That's just smart gambling. So to answer directly what Zach was saying, I would say if you normally buy in for 100 and are thinking of staying at the same denomination and moving to Ultimate X, going from 100 to like 4 to 5 would probably be that same. And we probably could do those calculations, right? If we sat down and we're like, oh, let's look at variance, and you run it, you could say, hey, on average, you're going to last this long and risk of ruin. And so you should have 2.9874 your bankroll. Like, we could do that. I'm not going to. Maybe
Sounds
he
like
will.
you might have. Yeah. Those
Maybe
are pretty
Mark
good
Duvall
numbers.
will. I'm definitely not doing it.
No, I generally agree with you, Jack, about like looking at it long term. Of that's your bankroll is whatever you're spending kind of long term. But I'm kind of in the mindset now of like still breaking it up by trip, because I just need something to kind of, as you kind of alluded to, focus on and have something that gets me away from the game as well. So I'm occasionally setting just time limits too, of like, it's either I lose all my money on this machine or I'm out within 2 hours because I want to go to bed or I got to go somewhere, whatever. I'm setting those kind of artificial limits, and they are artificial, right? I'll have more of my bankroll to play with. But yeah, I think that's a good point looking at it long term, but also like practically speaking, it's some people need that hard out. And I'm a vibes guy. So changing machine, even though I know for sure it makes no difference whatsoever, or changing games or changing denominations is fine with me. That I'm totally fine doing that too.
I don't think I've ever seen Jack play anything else in the whole 1 year that I've known him when it comes to video poker other than 3-line bonus poker Ultimate X.
Double
25
bonus.
cents. Oh, sorry, double bonus. I apologize.
Excuse me.
Double bonus.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, James.
I do get that sort of like FOMO if I switch games and the hand I hit would have been better on the game I was just playing than on the game I actually hit it on. That really just does feel bad in a way that I don't like. And so I just avoid that by playing the same game. Right.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I kind of wish I would have done that.
And boring Jack fits. And that's why people need to know that. Yeah.
I think the only other thing I'll say about Zach's question is there does seem to be a bit of a misunderstanding that like having a larger bankroll means that you're like more likely to get back to even. And adding more money when you're down some amount doesn't actually increase the chances that you get back to where you started. So like I've heard other people say things like, yeah, if you buy in for 500, you could lose that like really fast. But if you had bought in for 1,000, then you have some like runway that you could kind of, everything's will even out in the long run. And it's like, no, once you're down the 500, the expected place you'll be an hour from now is down 550, right? Or whatever it is, right? So it does, in some sense, having a larger bankroll does smooth out the variance in that like you'll get to play for longer. But if the session is going poorly, all that means is you'll just lose more when you have a larger bankroll and you'll lose less when you have like a smaller bankroll. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of teasing it, doing a smaller denomination, just seeing if it's for you, because for everyone here, it's for us. And for a lot of people I know, it's like they can't go back to quarter single line anymore, but it's not for everybody. So just like everything, give it a taste and see if you like it.
Now, Jack, this is a wonderful question. And there might be some people who are just getting into video poker. And we talk a lot about Ultimate X, Super Times Pay. But I think it'd be nice to go over just kind of what is Ultimate X and Super Times Pay for someone who might be listening and they're here for the video poker talk. As we know from our last episode, everyone's here for the video poker talk. What is the difference? Like, what is this? Why do we love Ultimate X so much and Super Times Pay? Like, what are these multipliers and bonuses that we talk about someone who doesn't know the game?
Yeah, so Super Times Pay is actually the one I started with. I used to play a lot of Super Times Pay at the Cosmo Chandelier Bar. Super Times Pay is a game where you pay 6 credits a line, and all the pays are the same as if you were playing 5 credits a line. So at video poker, max bet is generally 5 credits per hand that you're playing. If you're betting 6 credits a line and you get jacks or better, you're not getting your money back anymore at these games because you're still just getting those same payouts. What the extra credit does is that occasionally you get a multiplier. And so on Super Times Pay, it's about 1 in every 15 hands. you get a multiplier. It applies to all the lines that you're playing. And it's somewhere between 2 times and 10 times, weighted, more towards the middle of it. It averages about like a 4x multiplier. And that makes it, if you do the math on it, it's like ever so slightly advantageous from a house edge perspective to play the 6th credit. But so the house edge is slightly less, but you're betting slightly more, right? So it probably evens out. But the thing it does do is it makes some hands more exciting than others because there's a multiplier on that hand.
Yeah.
When that little like ding starts to come up and you've got a multiplier coming, like it
starts dancing
I stop and
switching. And
I don't play it much, but when someone next to me has it, I stop and look what's going to happen here.
Yeah, Kim really likes Super Times Pay. That's what she's been playing a lot lately, and has been getting wrecked because that's like I think that's the Tierney's middle name lately is getting wrecked on video poker. What's the best you've hit on Super Times Pay?
I hit a royal flush with no multiplier for $1,000.
I've hit 2 royals in the last year on Ultimate X with no multipliers as well. Dang it.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have any actual like good crazy Super Times Pay hits. I've probably hit like 4 aces on a 4x is probably my best on a game that actually cared about 4 aces. So that would have been $800.
And so what's the difference between that and then Ultimate X? I mean, I know I'm asking for the
Ultimate X
at
is ultimate, which means it's better.
Yes, capital
like
U.
Ultimate Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, so instead of just 1/6 of your wager going towards the multiplier feature, a full half of your wager is being spent on these multipliers because you're paying 10 credits per line instead of the usual 5. And again, you're betting 10 credits a line, but all the pays are as if you were only betting 5. So what I say when you're losing is you're paying double to win half, which is not what you want to do. But those extra credits aren't going nowhere. They're going to these multipliers that are earned, and they're not earned randomly. They're earned based on what you got on the previous hand. And not only that, they're based on what you got on the specific line that is in question on the previous hand. So like if you had 4 diamonds and you held all 4 looking for more diamonds to the flush, and you only got a flush on one of the 3 lines you were playing, then on the next hand, you would have a multiplier there, but only on the hand where you hit the flush, and the others where you whiffed, you wouldn't have anything. So it's a game that I'd like to think of it as it kind of parlays your wins for you. The bigger hands you hit, the more that it's then investing that money into the following hand.
Right. So the better the hand that you have, the better the multiplier, right? So, and also when you're dealt something like a flush or a full house, it makes it really exciting because then that applies to all the 3 hands, right? You're dealt it, you're obviously saving it. So if you're playing 3 line, all 3 lines are going to have that multiplier next.
Right.
Yeah, and we've talked about the excitement that the 3 of us get in gambling is that anticipation. It's the, oh my gosh, I have 8x, 8x, 8x. What might be coming next?
And it's usually
nothing.
Fuck all.
I'll even, if I'm playing Ultimate X and I get dealt flush straight full house where I know that I'm going to have great multipliers next time, I will take an extra beat, like an extra 5-10 seconds to sit there and be like, all right, here it is. Let's go.
I agree with you both 100%. It sounds like listening to what Crap Vegas said when they talked about video poker, that they're just so excited to get on to the next hand that they speed through hand that earned the multiplier to get to the hand that's going to spend that multiplier as quick as possible.
I don't think that's the way. I think you have to savor it. They need to win the fun stops pamphlet at that point. Like you're not enjoying the ride. You've got to let it sink in for a second.
I think of this the same way when I'm playing craps, of like the anticipation. And this is what I don't get sometimes about playing come bets, and why I do play come bets now and then, but I don't get that same feeling of like, oh my God, like this next roll. You get a little bit about it when you've got 2 up there, but I feel it's more fear.
Well,
like, oh
no roll is more important than any other because you're not varying your bets here and there.
But if you're playing the all tall small and it gets down to like, I just need a 9 left, like watching the dice being like, is it going to be a 9? It's $1,000 if it hits. That gives me a lot of excitement. Now, is it enough excitement that I should be giving up the 20% house edge? Absolutely not. Do I still? Yes.
Well, thanks, Zach. I hope we somewhat answered your question. Like everything when it comes to casinos and money, all that stuff, it's like a big fat it depends, right? Do what's best for you. But I'm glad you're coming over to what is the dark side of video poker and these crazy games.
Would you consider it the dark side?
I feel like it's a dark side because once you come over to the side, you're not coming back.
I feel like it's kind of the natural evolution of video poker in the sense that like playing single line video poker is just like playing the pass line with no odds, where it's just kind of like, it's a fine way to play. And if you have fun playing that way, you should. But people that start to do things like add odds behind their bet or make place bets or come bets tend to stay that way because they find some enjoyment in it, right? Even if it means gambling more or gambling in more different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, that wraps up the listener. That wraps up the listener feedback. Now we want to get into kind of the results of the talk we had last week about James's upcoming 40th birthday trip in March. What have you decided on that front, and how did our listeners help you make that decision?
Well, for people who are joining us for this 8th episode for the very first time,
I'm sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. You're sorry that they're joining us. That's not the way we should be greeting these new listeners. I'm not going to be the type of person that's like, you should go back to listen. You should go back to listen to episode 7 to hear this. No. So a real quick recap. I had this plan of going out to Vegas for my 40th birthday party, which is going to be in March, for 2 back-to-back weekends. I was going to brand one of the weekends as non-gamblers. I was going to invite my friends who are non-gamblers, and then one weekend that is for like the gambling. So like one weekend, lots of partying, visiting things. The other weekend, like just straight gambling. And I came to my 2 friends that I think are 2 of my top degenerate friends. I might have some that are more degenerate, but like the 2 of you got to be up there. You do a podcast for Vegas, right? And I got shut down. I was like, man, I guess maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't do this. But then the overwhelming feedback I got like via text or on Twitter, on Facebook was like, no, you should do 2 weekends. And I thought, you're right. I should do 2 weekends.
How did you get everyone, because I saw this as well, how did you get everyone to agree with you?
Yeah, people
What
are
happened?
texting you about this show?
Yes,
I don't get texts about this show.
They were texting me. My buddy Colin listened and he texted and he's like, hey, it's your birthday. Do whatever maximizes your utility.
Well, he's just doing that so he can be there on a different weekend than me. So that makes sense that he wants to separate the gamblers and non-gamblers.
But I've decided I am not going to separate gamblers and non-gamblers. What I have decided is I am going to go those 2 weekends. I'm going to go the weekend before the start of March Madness and then the first weekend of March Madness. And the reason for this is the first weekend of March Madness, I have gone out for the last 10 years with the group of guys from high school. But that's a really expensive weekend for being like on the strip. So someone who might be only making one Vegas trip a year or even like one Vegas trip every 2 or 3 years, they probably want to stay on the strip. So if the only weekend I had was that first weekend of March Madness, there'd be people who I think would be priced out. So the weekend before, which in this case I believe is like the 12th, 13th-ish, is a lot cheaper. Right. It's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be cheaper for people who might not have status or might not be able to get comps. So I'm going to do that weekend, and that's going to be the strip weekend where I will stay on the strip and I'm going to invite other people to come on out, hang out on the strip. And it'll still be gambling, not necessarily heavy gambling, but I'm still going to be gambling and doing kind of like just a regular Vegas trip. Then Kim and I are going to get an Airbnb, do work throughout the week, visit some friends, go do some things. We might drive out to California for a day or 2 to visit her family. Who knows? And then the first weekend of March Madness, I'm going to stay off strip and not downtown, off strip at the JW Marriott and Rampart and or Red Rocks. So I'm going to stay out in Summerlin and invite people to come there too. So very similar to my original plan, but it's just going to be strip versus off strip. And I've gotten the feedback that I got, or like the response that I got when I've texted a lot of my friends this has been great, because a lot of them are like, oh, I can't go this weekend. I can only go that weekend. So now it's giving people a choice to come and see me. And like, why would you not want to like come and hang out with me? Like, that's my like obviously people want to come, so I got to give them many options.
I mean, I
Why not stay for
appreciate it.
4 weeks? Then everybody can go.
I might have to do that.
I appreciate it because I didn't want to go out for March Madness. That doesn't sound exciting. It's just going to be busy and expensive.
So you're going to come in the first weekend?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm kind of a strip hack. I mean, I don't see why I would want to go to Rampart when I could go to the Cosmopolitan or something like that, right?
I will tell you that we were planning a Disney cruise in March, and I told Katie, I said, I think we have better deals in February if we want to do that. She's like, okay, that's true. But the reason really was like, yeah, it's slightly less expensive February. I'm like, I might have some plans in March. So this is
You might be booked up for 12 days.
I might be booked up for one of the weekends in March
for a long time. So it's gonna be fun, and I'm sure that'll be a great time both weekends.
How do you think the split's going to go? Where if you tell all your friends, I mean, like you said, some have obligations that lean them one way or another, but are you worried that it's going to end up lopsided?
Not really, because that makes me happy that like people are choosing the time that they are able to go. So I'm not worried about it. I do know already that like, the guys that I usually go with for March Madness, like there's 5 of them, and they're definitely going to go and be at Rampart and stay that second weekend. Dan, who we have talked about on the show before, he is friend of the pod, Dan. He goes out for that first weekend and usually stays either on Strip or at Circa. So he's still going to be in town, but not necessarily staying at Rampart or Red Rock. But then there's also like 2 of the guys that came last year for March Madness actually can't go that weekend, but can go the weekend before. So they're going to go there. So I think it's going to be a pretty decent split. And, maybe people who usually stay on Strip are like, you know what, I'd like to check out Rampart, might want to come that weekend. So we'll see.
Well, that's good. As we kind of wrap this episode up, can I ask, what is it about Rampart that you like so much? Because in the history of podcasts that I've listened to about Vegas, I don't think I've heard a soul talk about Rampart.
I thought there was just that one guy on Twitter that plays quarter video poker at Rampart, and then that was it.
Yeah, the Rampart Rambler.
I thought it was a joke. I thought he was satirizing Rampart.
Oh no, I think he lives there.
So the backstory of Rampart and the JW Marriott is my friend Matt, not friend of the pod. I guarantee he's never listened to the pod. His uncle lives in Summerlin and is a local that plays all the time at Rampart. So like 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, now, a long time ago, his uncle was like, you should come out to Vegas and like go to this local casino with me. So him and my other buddy Jeremy went out, and they're pretty decent sized gamblers. And if you're a pretty decent sized gambler at the Rampart, you're like king. So then, they got the host, they got everything. And so ever since then, we have a really good host there that will pretty much take care of the entire trip. And that's taking care of the entire trip for people who, have like a $4,000 to $5,000 like 4 or 5 day bankroll. So it's not like we're out there like, spending five figures and we're getting the cabana and the steak dinner and the golf and everything comped. They also have great rules on blackjack, amazing video poker. The sports book they just redid, which is really, really fun. And it's 10 times odds on craps, and it's always like a $10 table. So
Plus, they don't take the vig up front on the 4 and 10. So that's a big plus for them.
Huge deal.
Real big plus. And also like the hotel's really nice. Like the Marriott is really nice. The spa's nice. Now, is there anything around it? No. They used to, pre-COVID, they used to have a shuttle that you could take to and from the Strip. And then they got rid of that, which probably makes sense. Why would you want to get people off of your property? But it's a pretty quick Uber ride to and from and/or to Red Rock. So yeah, that's my plug for Rampart. And a couple years ago, the Crap Vegas guys were doing that whole March Madness brackets for casinos that took them 4.5 years to finish. And it was Rampart against something. And I lobbied so hard to get Rampart to win. And I was like, invite me on the pod and I will talk about Rampart. And they were like, sure, we'll bring you on. And then they didn't finish that segment for like 2 years. So I think they forgot about it.
I guess last question then, because Adam tried to go get the last question in, and it just sparked more questions. Why do you keep saying Red Rock? Like, if you're so committed to Rampart, why do we keep saying that, like, this might be at Red Rock?
Exactly. Thank you, Jack.
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. Because maybe people don't want to spend like 3 or 4 nights at the same property. They want some variety. So I will probably book through the host 4 or 5 nights at Rampart, but I might grab an offer at Red Rock for 2 nights, because that's a really cool. Because if you haven't been out there, I really like that property too. So I might book a night or 2 there to head over, because you'll want some variety.
I thought Red Rock was neat, but one of the things that I thought was the most neat was like their high limit video poker bar, their Ultimate X pay tables, their comped cocktails. You know, the only things I care about at a property. So
I think when one of these trips, when you're coming up, Jack, I think it's you know how like people have bets like, hey, if the Bears beat the Vikings or whatever, like you have to do this silly thing. I think the silly thing, if Jack ever loses a bet to us, is a trip to Vegas where he like needs to find one other thing that he enjoys.
Oh, he would quit the podcast.
I feel like I could enjoy Vegas in a lot of different ways, but I just choose the one that I enjoy most every time. But then again, then that's like, maybe just I'm lying. That's like me saying I'm not addicted. I could quit any time.
Right.
Other than that, it's the only thing I do. So yeah, no.
And maybe that's some stuff we could talk about in the second hour.
That was a good first hour of the show. In the second hour, we're going to talk a bit about our Vegas to-do lists and the things that we kind of look forward to or plan to do in the future in Vegas. And then we are going to talk about my upcoming trip for 360 Vegas Mark's Celebration of Life. Some trip planning talk coming up in hour 2, but that was hour 1. I'm Boring Jack. You just heard from Adam the Fraud and Table Games James, and we will talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.